Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. Do you have a formal dress that comes down too far in the back, showing the bra, and you need to make some alterations to fix that? Well, that is exactly what I'm about to do for a client right now, so I decided to take you along every step of the way and explain what you need to do so you can also do this alteration. So let's get right into it. The first thing we need to do is determine how big we need this panel to be. So this is the back of the dress. Here's where it zips up. And then it comes up like this. So when she had it on, you could see her bra right here. So when I had her and the dress was on her, we decided we need to make the panel 1.5 inches from the top of the zipper. It needs to go up 1.5 inches. So figure that out, put it on, see where your bra is, see how high up that needs to come. Okay, so 1.5 inches up. And then we also need to know how wide to make this so that it can span this gap. So the gap itself is about 1 inch wide. So, but where I'm going to attach it, I'm probably going to go in a little bit, and we also need enough for about 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to say adding 1/4 inch to each side of the gap is going to bring us to 1.5 inches. And then just so that I have enough room to sew it, I'm going to make it 2 inches wide. So mine's going to be 2 inches wide by 1.5 inches tall. And then of course we need to source material to make this panel out of. So luckily I've just hemmed this dress, and this is the fabric that I cut off. This is a great fabric to use because it's going to match 100%. So the way this fabric was on the dress was the chiffon layer was over top of the lining layer like that. And when you look at the body of the dress, that's how it looks too. It's the chiffon on the outside, but it does have that lining underneath so that it's not totally transparent. So I'm going to construct my panel in the same way. I'm going to put the chiffon over the lining layer, and then I'm going to cut out a piece that is over 1.5 inches up and down. I'm going to go about 2 inches, and then I'm going to go about 2.5 inches wide. Cut that out of this, and then cut an additional piece that size just out of the lining. So we need 2 pieces of lining, 1 piece of outer. If you are not hemming your dress and you need to go buy fabric at the store, just bring your dress with you and find the fabric that matches the most closely in opacity, texture, and most importantly, color. So I'm just going to take my pen here, my pencil from my Sewing Basics Toolkit bundle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. So I want it to be 2 inches up and down, which it pretty much already is. I'm just going to leave that measurement alone. And then I'm going to cut this at 2.5. So I'm going to go from here, where this is, over to 2.5. Cut that out. And then it's about 2, and we'll go over 2.5 again. And we'll make one out of the chiffon. And now we'll just cut those pieces out. Okay, so I have one for the lining, and then I have a lining piece and an outer piece that will get layered together. So that's how our panel will look from the outside, and that's how the back of it will look. So the first thing we need to do is place the chiffon outer layer over one of the lining layers, and then we're just going to go over to our machine and set it to a basting stitch, so a long stitch length, and we're just going to stitch all the way around the outside of this just to make these 2 layers into one. You can place a few pins to hold this in place while we baste. now we have a finished piece for the front facing side of our panel. Now you can set the machine back to a regular stitch length of about 2.5. Next we'll attach the outer piece to the lining piece. So place the lining piece right side down to the chiffon side or right side of your other piece. You can stick a few pins if you like. Now we're going to sew all the way around this piece using a 1/4 inch seam, leaving a hole for turning on one of the long edges. So we'll start on one of the long edges, down here about 3/4 of the way. So we'll lower the presser foot down, lining up the raw edge with the 1/4 inch seam allowance marking. We'll begin with a back stitch. And then we'll go forward. Stop and pivot in the corners. Okay, now this is the final side, so make sure not to close it all the way. Just move a little further to that corner. Just go a little bit and then backstitch, leaving a space here. This is going to be our hole for turning it right side out. Before we flip it right side out, we need to clip the excess bulk from the corners. So take your scissors and clip like this, close to the stitches, but making sure you don't cut the stitches like that. And then you can also clip a little here and here. So just do that for each corner. Now we can flip it right side out. Now we'll just flip it right side out. You can use your purple thing and put it into the hole and use that to make the corners nice and pointy. Looking good. So now we just need to push the raw edges in where the hole was, like that. And we'll put a pin right here. And now we're going to press this and then top stitch all the way around the outside. So that means just doing a stitch less than 1/8 of an inch from the edges. So let's go to the iron and give this a quick press. Now we can top stitch around the outside. And then with a back stitch. Here's our finished panel. Looks very nice. So this is going to go inside here on the back of the dress. So just line it up so that it's, not up too far, that there's a gap underneath, like that. And then I like to always stitch it where there already was a line of stitching. So I am going to stitch over this line right here. I'm going to put a few pins. Like that. I'm going to go to the machine, start here, back stitch, go down tracing this line, and back stitch. So here is our sew-in snap. You can get these on our website. There's a front and a back side. So we'll just sew one side to the panel and the other side to the inside of the dress. So she can zip up her dress, position her panel, and snap it into place. Okay, we can start by threading our hand sewing needle. And I always like to take both tails of my cut piece of thread and put them both through the eye of the needle like this. This is my method for threading a needle that lets you avoid tying a knot, because at the end you have this loop and that's going to be our anchor. So I will start here with the panel, and I'm going to put the snap in the upper corner here. So I'm just going to take my first stitch. I'm going to go down, pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through, and then come back up really close to the same spot. Pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through, because there's that loop. Stick your needle in that loop, pull tight, and now it's anchored without having to tie a knot. So now we'll take one side of our snap, and see it has these 4 holes around the outside. So we'll just do some stitches through the panel and the snap to secure this in place. So I'm just grabbing up a little bit of the panel fabric, coming up underneath the snap up through the hole. And maybe I'll move on to this one, so I'll just slide into the fabric, move over here, and continue. Maybe take 3 or 4 stitches per hole. We want this nice and secure, we don't want it to fail. Same thing, just put your needle into the fabric and travel over closer to the other hole, like that. And then begins taking stitches through the fabric and up through the hole. Once you feel it's adequately secured, we can tie a knot. So slide your needle under one of the stitches you just made, under the thread only. Pull it through, but don't pull it all the way through. See that loop? Stick your needle in the loop and then pull it tight. It'll make a little knot, and then we can repeat. Now that we have a knot, we just need to hide our tail. So take your needle and put it in close to where you just came out of. And so the needle is now in between the layers. You can't see it on the front or the back. So it's in there. Now just let it pop back up anywhere, like maybe right there. Pull through. Now the tail's inside of there. And we can clip this off close to the fabric. And it'll just disappear inside. Okay, our snap is attached on one side. Now look at this and now look at how it's positioned when you lay it in the back. We want to make sure it's coming straight across. That's not doing an angle or anything. Like we don't want it to be the other half of the snap up here, so it's always like that, or down here. Make sure it comes straight across, like that. And since this fabric is sheer, and you can see the snap, if it's over here, I'm going to make sure it's all over here, where this folded fabric will conceal it. So right there is where I want my new other side of my snap to be. So I just stuck that there to save my spot, and I'm going to thread the needle again. Okay, both thread tails going through the eye. And we'll take our first stitch, so pull it through, but not all the way through, and stick your needle in that loop. Okay, now it's anchored, so now I'll send it through to the other side. And now we'll position the other side of the snap here. So this side has the protruding part, so make sure you have this side positioned so that it has the whole part where it will meet up with the correct part of the other snap, like that. I'm going to position the center of the snap right where my first stitch was. And just start sewing that on in the same way. Oops, see, that one showed through. So the snaps are not included in the Sewing Basics Toolkit bundle. So if you get the bundle of all the sewing basics and you need to do a project like this, just make sure you also add the snaps to your cart. Okay, and same thing, once you're done, we'll tie a knot. So slide the needle under one of your threads, pull through, but don't pull all the way through. Put your needle through the loop, pull tight. And slide under the thread again, pull, stick it in the loop, pull tight, and then we'll hide the tail in here. Let it come up. And we can clip it close to the edge. Alright, let's try it out. Looks great. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you liked this, please give my video a like. If you tried this, please comment down below. I would love to know how it went. And if you need to pick up any of these materials, please find them on our website, shoppindrop.com. You can still get the Sewing Basics Toolkit bundle. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy sewing!